Your normal count is to count normally. So your normal count is to count normally. You understand? Why count ifs is condition. So now let me repeat what I said for those just joining. Now they ask you a question. They said, we want to know, you already know your unit sold is the number of things that was sold, and you can't use count for that. But they ask you, how many products did you people sell? Like, how many products is in the supermarket? How many products? This time around, it is not unit sold. This time around, they want to know how many products do you guys have. You understand, in the supermarket? How many products do you guys have? What are the products? Or let me use the question, what are the products we have? Now you know Amarilla and the likes. Okay, fine. Amarilla, how many products are they? You now want to count. You are not making your unit so this time around, you just want to count. You want to count head count. How many rows? Let me use rows. How many rows do you have here? You want to count. What will you do? The best thing is that what? You come to your sheet 1, you press, okay, let me just say number of rows, you get, or number of products. Now, how many numbers of products? You just say equal to count, open bracket. What are you counting? You are counting product side. So what are you going to do? You already know your C2 straight down to where? Straight down to the last part, which is what? Is in different method, but this is just, I'm just teaching you this method. To the last part, which is C7 what? The last part is C701. So you already know your colon C701, close bracket, you press enter. Now it brought 0. The reason why it brought 0 was because there's nothing for him to count there. He's just counting everything as 1 because you already have unit 2. I think that's one of the reasons why he's not bringing that. But let me use, I'm trying to pick, okay, let's count. You count this kind of a thing where you don't want to sum. So let's use E there instead of, let's say let's use E. Now you can see, the reason is because it won't run the calculation, it will count the numbers. How many are there? How many rows do we have here? How many number of products? How many in total? This is 700. You can say that is counting. Counting doesn't sum. It will just be like it's counting it one by one. That is count. So now, next one, we have the types of count. We have different types of count. We have count A. Note all this down, please. Now, count A means to count all, either numeric or text. Count is for numeric alone. Count A is for either numeric or text. This one now that we did, that is not counting. This one that we did is for what? This 700 that we counted, we use numeric, which is count. Now, if I want to count everything, I want to count my C2, where I have my C2, which is the product. So what will I use? I will use what? Count A. You come to your count, you just press count A, you type count A, and I press enter. You can see. So that is it. You need to get it right. So count is for numeric. Count A means to count all, either numeric or text. Count blank means to count blank cells. If there's blank cells, you want to know probably in that data set that we showed us the other time, or let me use this data set now. You want to know how many blank cells do you have here? What will you do? Let me just put it here. How many count cells do you have here? You just say equal to count what? Blank. That is to count blank cell. You open your bracket. Where am I counting this part? You close your bracket, press enter. You can see it counted the blank cells alone, which is just 5. That is the meaning. So then count if. Now this count if involves only one criteria or conditions. Count if involves only one criteria or conditions. For example, just like our sum if and our sum ifs. Don't forget. Just like our sum if and our sum ifs. That is count if. For conditions. That is, you just want to count number of probably a particular thing Let's say Amarilla. I'm just using this as an example. Amarilla. Which other products do we have here? We have, or don't let me use Amarilla. Let me use country. We want to know how many product, how many Amarilla. Let me just put country here. It's just an example. Don't worry. Let's say we have France. Which other country do they have here? France, United States of America. Let me just say USA. We have Germany. I'll just use this three. So let's say, for example, we want to count the number of products that were sold in Germany. In France, we want to know number of products in France. Very easy. You press your equal to, count if. If is for one condition. In bracket, what is the range you are counting from? The range I'm counting from. What is the range I'm counting from? You pick from this colon B701. Am I right? I think I'm right. So then, comma. Oh, sorry. We are supposed to use, yeah, okay, don't worry. So now, we are counting from France and we want to pick, is it France is the first thing? I think France. And we want to pick France. We want to know France that is in this altogether. You press your enter. You can see we have 140 in France. For USA, it's just like changing from some if to count if. That's just the meaning. So for USA also, equal to count if, in bracket, what range am I counting from? Same country. Then B701. Then you press your comma. What criteria am I using? United States of America. Abi, press enter. We have 140 also in USA. Same thing for Germany. You run your calculation for Germany and so on and so forth. That is count if. Now, if they now ask you, count ifs. Count ifs involves two criteria. They now ask you count ifs, which means I want to know Amarilla, a product sold, how many Amarilla was sold in France? That is two conditions. To know the Amarilla, how many Amarilla was sold in France or in France? What do? This is count ifs equal to count ifs equal to count ifs, open brackets. Now, criteria that you are using, criteria range 1 that you want to pick it from. Don't forget, our first thing is what? France and Amarilla. So I'm using country first, B2 down to B701, comma. Now, what criteria? First criteria, which is France. I want to know, the next one is criteria 2, which is the product criteria. C701, sorry, make sure you check your work very well, colon, C701, then comma. What criteria am I using for this also? I'm using what? Amarilla. Amarilla. We want to get Amarilla. How many Amarilla did they have in France? Now this is 18 Amarilla was sold in France, or were at France stocks, anyhow you want to put it. So that is count ifs. If you want to count more than 3, you can still count more than 3. Probably Amarilla in France and in one particular segment that you want, probably another segment. You want to know Amarilla in France. Let me use another segment. Let's say we have government. You want to know Amarilla sold in the government segment. Now, this is 3. What you will do? So you won't stop here. You will just proceed. Comma. You know, it is the next criteria will not be what? Government, which is under segments. So that is just what you are going to change. That is just what you are going to change. So because of our time, let's just stop there. So you understand what your count ifs, your, what is it called? Your count if, your count ifs. You now understand what we make use of everything, what we make use of it to do. So that is about count ifs. Now another thing, we've done count ifs and the like. So count if is for one condition, count ifs is for 1, 2 or more conditions. So get that at the back of your mind. Then another thing, if you are told to get a minimum value, a minimum value in your calculation. You make use of MIN. Let me just do few. The minimum value. You want to get minimum value in this calculation. You want to get the minimum value. Which one is the minimum? Minimum unit that was sold. Minimum unit of Amarilla that was sold. Unit minimum value of Amarilla that was sold. How do you do that? Very easy. You press equal to MIN in bracket. What criteria did I want to make use of? Unit sold, Abi? Yes. So E701, you close your brackets, you press enter. Now 200 is the minimum that was sold. 200, this is not supposed to, this is supposed to be product. That was sold in the product part. 200 was the minimum value, is the minimum unit sold in the product. So that is about the minimum. So it's just maximum is just to get the maximum value. You change MIN instead of MIN, it will now be what? Max. That is equal to max in brackets. What part am I using? Same thing, unit sold. I want to get the what? The maximum value 701. Close brackets, enter. You can see this is the maximum value there. This is the highest. So that is about minimum, maximum. Now average, it is also mean. So average means when you want to get the average value, average of one thing, what do you use? The formula is just equal to average. If you can know your formula, it will be easier for you. Now average if is when you are using for when it's just like one condition. So when you see if something, it means one condition. But when you see something ifs, it means more than two conditions. So if you now want to get average for probably two conditions that involve probably you want to get, let me use this, probably you want to get average value for or average unit sold. Let's say we want to get average value. Let me just put it here. Average value. You want to get the average value for the unit sold. You want to know the average unit sold. How do you want to know the average unit sold? Very easy. Use your number equal to average. But if you now want to get average unit sold, probably in France, average unit sold in France, that is ifs. That is what? If. So equal to, you press your average if, because you want to know it in France. What range are we working on? What range? Average in France. Yes or no? This is the range we are working on. B2 to B701. Then after that, what criteria am I using of France? And after that, which part am I using a calculation to get the average unit sold? So very simple. It's very, very simple. It's just you knowing your formula. Then I press enter. So I'm able to get the average unit sold in France. Same thing if I want to get for others. That is average if. If you now want to get average value for your product and France and the country, you will now use average ifs. That is average ifs. Now median. Median means total sum divided by count number. That is median. That's a formula. We also have standard deviation. I think we've done all these standard deviation for population, standard deviation for sample size and variance. So these are your calculations to get those part of descriptive. There's another descriptive, which is, I think, the last part of descriptive. Okay. Major last part of descriptive is if. If is used for conditions. Is used for conditions. If function is met. For example, we have students and you want to know students that pass and fail. Or let me use this figure. You want to know where you are having loss. You want to know where you are having loss in this kind of data set. You want to know where you are having loss and where you are having what's it called, or you want it to display something in the loss, to show profits. Let me insert new column here to show loss and profit. Now listen to this part because I will give you an assignment on this. To show loss and profit. I don't want it to display figures. I want it to display remarks. That is my remarks. I want it to display loss and what? Profit. So what do? I make use of if. If I make use of if, don't worry, let me use minimum, let me use small data set. Now I want this already. I already say total selling price. I have my balance to be this. So I know that 2000, 4000, the like. So, and I don't want it to display 2000, 3000. I want it to display to let me know that I'm on loss or profit. And I don't want to use conditional formatting. I want it to display remarks. To display if I'm on loss or profit. Let me change it to general. If I'm on loss or profit, that is what I want to display. So what are you going to use? You use the function if. You use the function what? If. You can see. If function is when. That is, if equal to if, open bracket. What is the logical test you want to use? If true, so. But the best method, which is the proper method, is where you want to start your remarks. Which one? This one doesn't involve calculations like this, but you can write this down because the stuff is long. You understand? So, but instead of you stressing yourself doing that, the best thing to do is you come to your sum symbol under your home tab. You will see this sum symbol. You click on the arrow beside. Then you come to more functions. This is where you see all the functions. You look for if. You click on if. You press OK. It will load. Now it has loaded the logical test. What if am I working on? This is the logical test that says what part. Logical test is just like, okay, I want it to display loss or profit. That means there must be a condition I want it to meet. That is the logical test. What condition did I want it to meet? Condition that says anything lesser than 0, it means loss. Greater than and less than. So what will I do? My logical test will be what? My logical test will be what? So let's say H2, don't forget your where you are working on. This is it. H2 here. H2 greater than less than. This is less than 0. If true, that is I pick H2 less than 0 because that's what I'm working on. If it is minus, that's when I'm on loss. But if it is still 0 or 1, let me use 1. If it's still 0 or 1, hey, sorry. Let me go back there. Sorry. I made a mistake. I pressed something. So formula, you come to your arrow beside, more functions, if, okay. So now logical test, H2, which is my balance. If H2, that's my logical test. Just say H2, if H2 is less than 1, what should happen? If true means what should happen if it is less than 1? What should happen if it is less than 1? What should happen? That is, if it is less than 1, the thing that should happen is what? It should display what? Fail. If false, that is, what's the opposite of, oh sorry, not fail, loss. It should display loss. If false, what is the opposite of loss is what? Profit. This is what I want to display. And when you're not done with this, you press OK. Now, it has displayed something here, but it's not showing because I think is let me change what is it called? Hold on. Why is this thing load? Good. I change the color. So you can see profit. So if I autofill downward now, let me bring it. So if I autofill downward now, what can you see? You will see it will display. We have only one loss, and that is where you are seeing red. Can you see it? So this is what we call if function. You can use it for anything. You can use it for your probably you want to calculate and the like. You see this. This is if function. Then if also have its own ifs. Ifs, don't forget for multiple, 2 or more. If is for one condition. Ifs is for 2 or more. Let's see this as an example. If B13 is greater than 10,000. I want it to display yes. Now, if B13 is now greater than 10,000, I want to display no. If B13 is equal to 10,000, I want to display error. Then you press enter. This is an example. So it is 3 conditions that we want it to meet here. So that is ifs. That is what? Ifs. So we are getting there. Now concatenation. Concatenation. It combines value from the conditions to give reports. Don't worry, it's getting much, Abby. Don't worry. Don't worry. This is the last part I will discuss. Now, for example, let me give you an example. Let's say you are working on a data set and they have first name, and you have last name. and there is John Doe. John Doe. They now ask you to combine everything. Will you shout? Will you say, yeah, they're stressing me? No. What will you do? You make use of what we call concatenation. You can see it is used for what? Combining. So you make use of concatenation, which is concatenate equal to concatenate, concatenate. So your concatenate, you open your bracket. What am I joining? I'm joining this. Yes or no? Comma, and which one? This. You close your bracket, you press enter. What can you see? Now, if you want it to display space, if you want space to be in between, you now come in between it. You come in between it. You want space to display. You make use of your what? Of your quotation. Then you put space in between your quotation and you press enter. Hey, error is somewhere. Okay, comma, this. You put a space, comma, this. So you can see John Doe. You put a space after your comma A2, you put your quotation, comma B2. This is John Doe. That is how to join two or more things together. That is how to join two or more things together, which using concatenation format. Concatenation format. Concatenation format. This conditional formatting is what we did the other time that was giving us color. Having different color. If it is lost, it should bring colors, all those kind of things. That is formatting. So now, is there any question? Is there any question? Fumbi, is there any question? Amidat, is there any question?
No.
Rokibat, is there any question? Ibido, is there any question? So now,
No, sir.
yeah, now data reporting on Excel. This part. Now, I told you, you make use of your sheet 2 to do what? To run your calculation, while your data can be on sheet 1. So, which means if you're having a data set that you're submitting and you're having data set here and you're still doing calculation here, that is rubbish. You come to your sheet 1 to do your reporting there. You understand? That is what? Data reporting. You come to your sheet 1, sheet 2 to do your reporting so that it will be easier for anybody to just come in and what? And check. Now, your assignments. Create, no worry, I'll drop it in your group, but note it. Let me just explain. Create 30 rows. Your assignment is simple, don't worry. It's simple. So this is your assignment. You create 30 rows